And when the world was on the practice standstill, he worked as a boss for the WPA at Bremen. And we had a, well, it was supposed to have been a racehorse, and Dad hitched the buggy and went down there, and he always tied him as they moved up Bremen Lane when they was resurfacing it. He'd move him, and somebody hollered and said, "Pud." They always called Dad Pud. "There goes your horse." And Dad took off, and somebody got in their buggy and running. Uh, some younger guy jumped in the buggy and pulled on the lines to stop him. But boy, that horse was a fighter. Because whenever we plowed, Dad, I'd have to ride the seat, and old Bonnie and Bob was hitched, to pull the plow. And he'd get up in the corner and he'd rear, and Dad'd come up and he'd take a handful of dirt and put in his mouth. Boy, that'd make him mad. He'd rear up to his feet. So Mama said, "Dad, you've got to get rid of that before he kills that girl." So Dad finally got rid of him. And, but no, when Dad was I took Mama to the hospital, and there wasn't any change, so the doctor said, "Well, we might as well bring her over to my house." So I did, and we didn't even more get home till they called us, "We better come quick." We went over, and we got to see him pass away.
What was that?
47. And of course, naturally, she broke down. And then, of course, Mama was just practically one of us girls. But she used to get the biggest kick out of us. She'd ask you questions you wouldn't think she'd ever asked about sex, and if it was fun. All of those, we used to kid her. I'd say, "Well, Mom, you ought to know there was enough of us kids."
Yeah, just put it back door.
Yeah, but now I never drank coffee. And of course, Joe, that's Pauline's husband, was a big drinker, and she'd want me to drink coffee, and just to please her, I would, and that's the way I got to drinking coffee. We'd go down to Pauline Joe's at Cincinnati. It was Joe and Mom and I drinking coffee. She was a doll. I really missed Mother. I'd give anything if I had her to sit and talk with, because she was so lovable.
When did she die?
In 59, 59.
Year I was born.
Year I was born.
I don't remember.
Dream on, Woody.
Gonna
I
say.
don't remember.
No, Edward, she was a doll.
I know, but I remember. There's other things I remember. You know.
It's like,
Not that.
she come up to my place one time. She wanted to buy a new dress and a hat. So I took her down at Lazarus, and I took her at the door, and I said, "Mom, you stay right there." She had to use a cane, too. And I went and parked the car in the back. Boy, she about wore me out. So we couldn't find anything, so we started up High Street, up there close to Clintonville. She seen a dress. She says, "There it is." So I turned around and pulled up front, and I said, "Wait." And then Kirk come to the door. She says, "We'll bring the dress out to her. You take it home, and if it don't fit her, you can bring it back." It fit her to T. But when Mama passed on, there was a little thing here with a little button on it. It was like little, was diamonds. And Leota didn't want that on there, and so I took it off. So I made that into a bookmarker for my Bible.
I didn't know that.
So
So,
you still have it?
yeah,
You have to show it to us.
but, boy, I'm telling you, she was something else. And the hat, I finally gave the hat and the shoes to Viola because I get tired of moving them around. It was, the brim of it was like that little round hole. And her
After
shoes.
your dad died, did she stay in the family home?
She stayed there in Bremen. They rented, and she used to tell about, because Mama was very good with the Bible. She always put her Bible and toilet roll paper on the bed beside her. And then at night, she had a mouse. He'd get up there and play in the toilet paper and play around. I said, "What?" And she said, "Well, he wouldn't go hurt me. He was just company." I said, "Mom, I'd been long gone." But that was so funny, that little mouse.
How old was she when she died?
What did I say? 50.
She died
Dad?
in 59.
59.
When was she born?
Well, Sherry, I'd have to look in the Bible. But, and then she had a little yellow canary she used to take care of, and she thought it had a cold. So she got the big salve, and she'd get that canary out and hold it in her hand, and the head sticking out, and she'd rub his nose with this big salve. tell her, I'd say, Mommy, go take his breath. No, he's got a cold. So she couldn't take care of him, so we gave him back to Pauline and Joe, and they let him fly loose, and the door was open, and he flew up on top, and the door flew shut and killed the bird. Mama felt so bad about that. But
Did she have any children that died?
yes, little Ruth,
Oh, that's
I've got a picture of her.
Does she have any kids that live?
Oh yeah.
You
You've
didn't
seen
catch her
picture. They had her sitting, where Dad and Mom lived was a little house, and they was on the front porch. And they had her, must have been like a chair with a back and a robe over it. Pauline's got the robe. And her little dress run clear to the floor.
I
Is the
think I
house still
did,
there?
but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Is it? It's still being lived in?
yeah. And ours is too. They've remodeled there.
You ought to get pictures of it.
Well, I would love to sometime.
The house.
I guess it
Where we
doesn't look
live.
the
Are you
same.
listening?
was adjusting myself.
Where we was
It's okay, Mom.
raised, Sandra. But
At the church now.
I can remember when we lived there, Elsie and Pauline and I slept in a bed
House is
together.
a church.
And every week Dad would change the straw ticks, put very strong. We had to have a chair to get up on to get in bed. And Teddy, Trixie, our little dog, she slept with us. She'd get down under those covers. And one night, Mom and Dad woke us to get up to see the Northern Lights, and that's the first and last time I've ever seen the Northern Lights. Boy, they were beautiful.
That's a long
But,
Three of you slept in one bed?
God.
time. Both of these?
Was it a double-sized bed or big like yours?
No, just a regular sized
Was
bed.
it really?
Slats in it. But then,
And what was your school season?
well, from June till, when they closed, yeah, September to June.
So it wasn't short, and you had to walk?
Yep, they're in school, about 4 miles.
Wait a minute.
Then after I got through down there, Lester Taylor and I walked about 8 miles to West Richville High School. God, we used to grab a branch and swing across the fence, or the snow would be clear up above our waist. But they didn't have school buses those days.
And what grade did you finish through?
I had to quit and go to work. I got to 2 years, and I quit and went to work for Isaac Rolls going to Lancaster. And my God, they made me get out. You know this there, Doc? It's a big leaf. They can it. I had to wash every leaf out there by the well in cold to see if there's any bugs. Damn near froze. And when I went home, Mama knew that I was catching a cold, and she knew what I was doing, so they made me quit.
What was it? What leaves of what?
Nerdoc, they called it. Green.
Grains?
Yeah, they
Like
can.
spinach or something?
No, it looked like that.
I've
So then I went to work for bloodsuckers in town. They had a little boy and girl,
Bloodsuckers?
bloodsuckers. And she had to go to hospital, and he tried to get fresh with me. So,
How old were you?
what, I don't know, I was young. And the guy that was in Bomber over there, Frank Smith, in Bomber, in bomb people.
Didn't you have one guy scary and one not?
Yeah, I was on a date, and we came home, and I come in the side door, or through the garage where the ambulance and her sat, and I didn't want to disturb them, and when I came through sometimes they just embalm them and lay them on a hard couch-like, and they had curtains, and we came through there, and I guess the guy's hand hit me like that. And Jesus Christ, it scared me to death. I went out of there, and Walter went up flying out the door, and I ran up and knocked on Smith's door. And I said, there's somebody in the room down there. And Mr. Smith got up and called the police right away, and they came out and went back there, and there wasn't nothing. But it just must have been the vibration of the floor that made his hand drop and come strike me there. Walter says, from now on, I'll never come through there again. We always went in and out the front door. Boy, that was some house. Beautiful.
Really?
Because their room was the front, and in the showroom and the casket was back. God, caskets those days was really cheap.
Pine boxes.
No, they weren't fine, beautiful caskets, but
Cheap in price.
yeah,
Oh, inexpensive.
yeah. But bronze, beautiful.
How long did you work for them?
Oh, I was there about 6 or 8 years because I used to go down to Palace Theater, you know, and I'd hear this guy, ha 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 ha. You could hear him all over Lancaster. Well, I found out he was an usher there at the Palace Theater. It was Ollie, that's Bev's dad. So one night he asked me to stop up at Eckert's restaurant. They used to make the best dressed chicken sandwiches. Boy, they were good. So Tommy, that run the picture, he and his wife, the four of us would go together. So we'd stop up there and have those chicken sandwiches, and then they'd walk me on out to Smith's. And finally then Ollie he wanted to get married, and old Softy B said yes, and we come to Columbus, and there was married at the courthouse. And
How old were you when you got married the first time?
18.
18.
So then he went to Washington Courthouse to be a bartender. And I couldn't make it on where I was at, so one day, and I was pregnant. Bev, Tara, and Clay had Sandra, or she was outlived, and then she was Tara and Clay, and so I just got ready and got on the bus, went over, and Mr. and Mrs. Beveridge, the manager, and when I went in, I told them, and they knew what was taking place. So they said, you go back there in the back booth and sit down, we'll let that on. So when Ollie come in, Mr. Beveridge says, Ollie, he said, there's a package back there in the last booth for you. So he come a stomping back there, it was him, or me. And so Mr. Beveridge come back, he said, you're taking her down and making a home for her. Now she's carrying your baby. And of course he didn't like that. So it wasn't too far from the where he had bar that they had this house for rent. And so Beveridge said they'd get a woman to stay with me, and there was a nurse just the second door. And when it come time for me to go in labor, I said I didn't want to go to sleep. So the doctor said, well, if anything happens, we'd rush you to Cincinnati. So of course Sunday morning the church bells were ringing, and I went into labor. Well, that night before, we sat out at the dining room table and played cards, and I was so happy. And water broke. So Sunday morning, then Luella told the nurse, she says, I think she's going to have the baby. So the nurse, she called the doctor, and he came down, and he said, yep, because he had told them to get all the clean newspapers and towels that they had for him to put under me. So I didn't have any trouble, but when she come, my hand her to Luella and finished taking care of me, and then he came back and picked her up out of her bassinet and brought her over. And he had a cigar in his hand or mouth. He wasn't smoking it. He laid her down beside of me, and her little arms were smaller than that cigar. She weighed 2 1/4. And Sandra had a little tin doll baby buggy, and I used to put her in that. She'd go to sleep in it. And then when Clay came over to take us back over, and he looked at her and he said, you'll never raise that kid. And because the doctor said, just put her on a pillow, don't handle her anymore than you had to.
Was she born premature?
Well, the doctor thinks when I do my washing, took it out, and the line was too high, and the cord got wrapped around her neck. Well, I didn't know. So Luella took a doll cap off of Sonya's doll baby and stitched it across back here to make it small. Took doll socks off of her doll, put on her little feet, and took some flannel rags made about the size of a handkerchief, man's handkerchief for diapers, and put a little band on her, and used her little doll baby sweater and bundled her up good, and we took off.
That is pretty amazing for that time.
Yeah.
So small.
Considered exceptional.
But now look at her.
Did I say absent?
No, she
Well, when
got.
were you married to Grandpa Kane?
Well, I was married to him before Bev.
20 after 9.
For Bev and Ollie, or for Ollie and I was married.
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, he was a hothead.
How many times you been married?
Twice. Well, 3 times to Ollie, and 4 to Bill, bitch, son of a bitch. That's what I call him.
Who?
Bill Harshberger.
Oh, him. I
Well,
forgot all about him.
Where'd you meet Grandpa King?
well, there was a Gordon Rupp and I forget her name. The four of us run around together. And that night before we had pancakes. That's what they wanted. So I made pancakes. So there was so much batter left over, I just put it in the refrigerator. And the next morning I got up and I thought, well, I'll finish him out. And he got mad and beat me up. So I got away from him, got downstairs, and that woman told me to get out of the house. She said, "You go to John Silball right now." Well, I run down and got down there to Broad and Main. Dorothy Tiller I knew. I went to her, and so Dorothy told me I could stay there and go see Mr. Silball, so that's what I did. And Silball wanted me to sue him, and I said, nope, I just want away from him. And he, I was pregnant for Sandra, and I know when I got ready to go to the hospital, why Ollie and Jeanette went with me to Lancaster Hospital, and Dewey claimed that he would take her, and I said I'd see her dead before I'd give her up. So he took off. I didn't know where he's at. Later on, I heard he was in California, and then I heard he went to Hiawatha to get out of non-support. And they wanted me to file charge and bring him back, but I didn't have that kind of money to ever bring him back, so I had to go to work. I went there at the City Hall place there in Lancaster and took old cabbage leaves off to make a living for her. So,
Tell us about when you had Mom,
huh? I just did.
when you gave birth to her.
Was she born in a hospital or at home?
Lancaster Hospital. Yeah. I wouldn't take a dime for her. She ain't worth anything.
That's the only thing I agree with you in
Oh, well.
Was she a pain in the butt?
And then she'd get colics bad. So Dad came in and Mom to the hospital, and as soon as I seen Mom, I cried. Now, if she hadn't come there, I wouldn't have. But then I lived in a brick house there on Main Street with some people, and so when they come in to see how she's doing, they said they'd take me out to Bremen because she had colics so bad. So I went to Bremen with them, and Dad went up over the hill and picked some fresh catnip. He brought it down, and he made tea. And we fixed it and gave it to her. Boy, she just sucked on that bottle like fury. Of course, I nursed both the kids, but still, she had to have the water.
Yeah.
And the next morning, well, I heard something in the night going. This next morning, Dad's catnip was all gone off the shed. Cats got jumped, kept getting up there to get it because they love catnip. Then they go. We went to Indiana one time. We had some catnip we got. I thought the darn cat was going to go crazy in that car.
They're funny when they.
You ever smoked catnip?
No.
Yes, you
Yes,
did,
you
Grandma.
Long time ago, you and Ned and Mom tried this.
Remember?
Roll some
Yeah,
catnip.
remember at the kitchen table?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I'll be darned. What did it taste like?
It was when Brandy was a baby because you made Brandy catnip tea.
Yeah.
And so that was the same day you guys rolled it and smoked
Yeah,
it.
we wanted them what it'd be like.
But boy, oh boy. That made her colic go away.
Did it?
And when Bev was born, I gave it to her.
How long did you stay in the hospital after your baby was born?
Well, not too long. When she was born, it cost $98, and I didn't have the money, so I didn't have to pay it.
Oh, wow, 98 bucks.
Some cheap kids.
Because I wasn't getting support from nobody.
And then Mom lived with Aunt Leota while you worked?
Yeah. And Leota told me she noticed Sandra having blackouts, and that I ought to take her to the doctor. So I brought her into Lancaster and took her to the doctor. And she had goddamn worms.
Worms?
I'll never forget that bottle of medicine I had to give her. He said she'll never have any more.
They were that bad?
How'd you get the worms?
Well, anybody can get worms, but
You mean after you die you can get worms?
no, they might eat you
Bed
up.
bugs.
Okay, tell us about the
But
medicine.
he thought maybe, because I told him the day I went to hospital that I had, he said, when soon as she's born, they'll be gone, but they didn't go away.
Oh, you had the worms, and you gave them to Mom.
He said that's unusual, but
Yeah, but remember, Mother, I had those seizures later,
yeah,
and you had me in Children's Hospital for a while.
yeah, I had her down there and I couldn't see her for 6 weeks.
Seizures.
Damn near killed me.
No,
Can't
seizures.
imagine.
They thought I had epileptic seizures at first. Then they finally took my tonsils out and I never had any
Yeah.
more.
All in her mouth. Still is.
Stop.
Great life, you don't wait.
So what did Susie say when you played hide and seek?
Honk honk at me.
Do what?
Honk honk.
What'd she do that for?
Let me know she was there, and when she'd catch up with me, she'd bump me on the back of the legs.
Did you have a horse named Dan or something?
Well, Bob, and then Bonnie, the
Well, why don't you
brown
have
horse.
one that's called Old Dan or
And
something?
when she died, Dad called the guys to come get her. God, it was right at noontime, and they was sitting on her side eating their lunch. Bullfighting flying around. Holy gads. But, and I used to get her out on the south side of Vaughn, bathe her in the winter time.
Brandon,
She just let me do anything.
Yeah.
it's empty.
Who cares? I emptied it.
They didn't want to
Did
break.
you guys go to church every week?
Yep, every Sunday and Sunday night and Wednesday night. Dad used to hitch up the sled in the wintertime, put fresh straw, put us all down in there and light the lantern set it down there, however kept them getting fired.
You got me right.
Put the bells on the horses and away we'd go. Really enjoyed that.
She got paid.
Dad worked at the East End Glass Factory there in Lancaster, and it is impossible to drive that road with a car, or even hard on a buggy or horse. And I know I'd go with him out to the main route, and then bring the horse and the buggy back. And I can remember old Bobby coming up those hills. He'd pass gas and sound funny. Boy,
Of a horse?
yeah, the
Was there,
horse.
was there a lot of glass industry down in that part of the
Yeah,
States?
East End, well, Hawking Glass Factory on the west side, and then East End Glass Factory. I think they're all gone now, if I remember. Dad, oh, I've got cases that little shoes in that carry cabinet, that Dad made that. And he gave us girls some other stuff, but Dad was, Mom was good to us.
Did you guys have how old were you when you guys got a car?
The first car we got was a Crip.
A what?
Old Crip. Didn't have headlights, it had candles. 'Cause when no curtains, and Dad had to get out and open this little door and light the candles. I said I'd give anything if we had pictures of that.
Yeah.
I'd give anything to have it.
It was a top went this way and out, and God, when we got the buggy, and I thought, boy, we were millionaires. Because that old Crip,
Crit.
K-R-I-T.
I never heard of it.
And there's a lot of cars that were made that I've forgotten.
But,
Used to be buggy makers. They would start building cars.
I didn't realize that.
oh boy.
Butt hurting?
Oh yes, them rails. No, those was fun days, good old days.
We're gonna look back at our early days as good old days. Just think these little guys now, look back now.
Well, back.
It is.
You know what, Edward, the world's moving too fast now. And the kids don't realize what a nice time they've got right now, and they won't.
In some ways, I think now are cooler times than probably what they were back then.
Yeah.
Because people don't help out each other and care about each other like they used to. I mean, there's no sense of neighborhood or...
I remember we used to have a lot of gypsies went through, and I can remember one time somebody rapped on the door and Mama told us girls stay back and went and here's these, well, they looked like beggars and they wanted a drink and they wanted to know if they'd come in. Mama said, no, I'll get the water. So she went and got the dipper and took the door and gave it to them. They thanked her. But, and then when Dad and Mama lived out west, they had to come back because the Indians would steal the kids' clothes off the lines. So,
That was, where was that? What state?
Wichita, Kansas.
Kansas?
So they come back in a horse and buggy. Surrey, they called it.
Did you go to Kansas too?
Well, I was,
Was that before you or?
I was born, but I don't remember. Mama
So
told me.
you were an infant.
Yeah. But now Leota and Ann and Viola would remember more. And hams, gee, they take them too.
Hams.
Yeah, 'cause Dad.
Oh, because they've been in the smokehouse.
And they said if they didn't give them a ham, they'd take us.
So how did you,
Wonder they didn't keep the hams.
how did you keep your meat?
Something better off.
Was it all smoked and salted?
Sugar
and
cured.
Sugar cured? What about beef?
Well, those days, Mama canned most of the beef. Now the pork would keep, because we had a smokehouse, and Dad would smoke the hams, you know. And boy, and that was good.
I can remember going to Aunt Patty's though, and her canning meat.
Yeah, yeah,
So you'd have canned beef roast.
yeah. Well, I used to can a lot of chickens for rice. I'd kill 8 or 12 of them at a time. Can 'em.
How would you kill a chicken?
Hang them in a tree and cut their heads off, let them bleed.
Never.
No, because Dad and Mama taught us to hang a chicken in the tree so it would bleed to death, because if it didn't, there'd be blood in the meat.
Have you ever killed a turkey?
Oh, yes, my God, I never will. If I had one heck of a time killing a turkey,
Tell me about it. I killed one once.
that damn thing, I had him all over the yard.
Beat you dead one.
Then I killed a duck one time for Clara. You remember that? Jesus. And I didn't scold him enough, and I picked down till the cows come
You
home.
were supposed to be your paraffin.
Well, I didn't know that. God. So I said, Clay, I can't get them things out of him. He said, what are you talking about? I showed him. So he helped me so Claire wouldn't get on us. Oh, boy.
You ever kill a pig?
No, but I watched him do it. I seen Dad kill a pig, and he didn't know she was pregnant. And she was full of babies.
Yeah, right.
They
The
just
babies
had to
live?
bury her.
Babies didn't live?
They slit the mama pig in the throat, and of course, they hung them up in those trellises. When they cut her down while they were with the pigs. So they just took her out and buried her.
Why wouldn't they go ahead and use her?
Because Dad was afraid to. And we used to have some other hogs that was so big that they'd actually get me red. So every spring, we'd help Dad to drive them over at Raceway, and they'd stay there all summer to keep cool. But
Oh, you mean they sunburn?
I guess, or what, or it was the heat, I don't know, because we used to have hot weather. And poor pigs. Now, I guess, we had 4 catawba trees on the east side of the house. And Viola said that they'd taken out all but 2. And where our garden used to be, they've built a big garage over there. And the orchard, it's gone, and they must have sold, in the truck pads, they must have sold off that land, as she said, there's a house trailers back there.
Did
And,
you ever have catawba worms on the trees?
oh God, I hate them things.
Good fishing bait.
Yeah, oh, and I know that. And the flowers, when they come out, they smell good.
Mhm.
But them darn worms, ooh.
Did you ever go to your grandparents? Do you remember their,
Oh, yes.
their house?
The road was so bad, we used to have to walk across the woods.
Know where'd they live?
About 4 miles north of us on 37, that would be from Lancaster into West Raceville.
Which grandparents are those? Where-
That's Mama's mother and dad, Grandpa and Grandma, Papa. And I remember Pauline, we was getting ready to come home, and I've got a picture of her, that Dale made all of our clothes, a little velvet hat and her little coat. But Grandpa and Grandma, and I can remember that place, it was yesterday. And Grandpa'd never let us go out to the barn because he had a cross bull. And he always cursing Dad when if we'd have to walk across to stay away from the barn yard in a certain field back there.
Did you know your great-grandparents?
And that would have been, my dad, Grandpa Taylor and Grandma.
Well, it'd be their parents, your great-grandparents.
Your grandparents' parents,
Well,
the Potter's parents.
no, but I got pictures of them, but,
Right.
and then I got pictures of Dad's grandpa or his father and mother.
But you didn't know them?
I used to stay with Grandma and Grandpa when I was going to high school, and every night was tomato and bread. You know, cream tomato, you like that.
Yeah.
And every night. And I had to sleep in a cold bed.